Welcome, everyone. Let me get my show notes up here. We have a show going on right now. This is what's happening. All right, well, hello. My name is Norah Medlin, and today at the beautiful Aurora campus on July 25th, 2025, I'll be chatting with you about optimizing productivity for client success as part of the Drupal Camp Colorado 2025, if you didn't know where you were at, Project Management Ownership Track. As you may know, if you've met me before, I have over 2 decades of experience in the technical field with a bachelor's in networking technology, actually, is how I started out. And then following up with a master's in innovation and entrepreneurship. I really thought I was going to start my own business and then decided that I didn't like to be an owner. I really like helping other owners fix their problems. Needless to say, I do consider myself language and platform agnostic, an analytics geek, which I think lends a hand to project management in general, just doing, data analytics on velocity and estimations and how the performance of the team is sprint over sprint. Today, like I was saying before, I help organizations implement strategic initiatives and improve processes. And as a servant leader in the Drupal space, primarily these days, I appreciate speaking opportunities like this as part of my path of continuous learning through mentorship and facilitation. So let's go ahead and think about what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to dive into what productivity really looks like for client-facing teams, expect tools, tactics, and hands-on reflection to walk away with real next steps. And so let's maybe talk a little bit about what is productivity? It's not really about doing more faster. It's about doing the right things with clarity and intention so we serve our clients better. Meaning, I think we all have been on lots of projects where we don't have a well-defined scope, and that may mislead us into doing things that we are going to spend hours or time on that we shouldn't, right? So being in communication and alignment with our stakeholders on a consistent basis, this is what Agile really speaks to a lot, is those continuous checkups throughout the process is really important in improving the actual real deliverable productivity or velocity from sprint to sprint. Some common pitfalls we're going to talk about here for just a moment. Let's be honest. Intake chaos, unclear handoffs, poor follow through can easily kill momentum and client trust. So talking about handoff and intake in particular, it's really important that if you want to have tools around this to make sure that you are capturing all the information that's needed in order to reduce additional context or blocks that might happen throughout your process. And some of these tools that can support you reduce basically these systems reduce friction from templates to intake forms to centralized updates. And really your future self will thank you. So think about setting up a help desk portal. You have a set of questions that you can customize if you have a good portal set up. That will allow you to ask things like steps to replicate, or what is the severity of the issue? Not just what is your business priority, and trying to compare it against some other things that are going on in the pipeline, but what is the actual true business impact for this issue? So certain things like this might be really important for you to, as a team, figure out and provide and create some templates around. Even if it's not an actual full-fledged portal, if it's just a form, if it's just a list of questions that you continuously ask your clients, these are some of the systems that you can use to make your life easier. And really, this is kind of an example of an email that might be one of your templates. You can see in this scheduling kickoff workshop email for a new engagement for an existing client. We're messaging Susan here. We're, kicking off the project. We're excited to work with you. It sets a tone. This is something that you develop with your project management team over time. What is that business value that what is the sort of mission and vision of your agency that you are trying to portray through the messaging? And you make sure to include, this is our next steps that we're going to need to cover, or the things that we need to ask for. In this example, we're also taking into consideration things like accessibility or requirements for a workshop, for instance. So there may be lots of different elements that you develop over time, and this is an example of a template you might use. AI. I know that that's a big topic here at this camp as well as others. Just a quick mention, definitely in the project management space, AI can be your assistant. I think it honestly excels in a lot of ways, more than in some other areas, like as in development. It can kind of hallucinate as to like what a solution might be for coding or whatever the case may be. But I think what AI still and has always done really well is analyze and summarize existing data. So as long as you're feeding in information, good information, things like taking meeting notes or action items for summaries, as I was saying, or even like helping to decide like what your next steps are, your action items are, can be really helpful. Another piece to do with this that I'll mention really quickly is that if you take these notes and actually put it in a centralized database, like if you use Confluence or a wiki system of some kind, it could be searchable as well. So it's a good idea to leverage AI as in any other space. But I would say that in my cadence of my meetings, definitely not having to clickety clackety on my wonderful keyboard that makes so much noise everybody complains about all the time at home. This way, I'm able to really focus on the clients and the discussion and not worry so much about making sure that I wrote down that thing we have to remember. We just have to say it during the call. And it kind of forces us in some ways to make sure that we're actually communicating those things concisely and clearly throughout the meeting. So just a note how I've seen how AI can help. It may also be good to think about automating small things. So anything that you, want to, as a general rule, repeat more than twice a week is potentially a candidate for automation. In the project management space, I've seen Jira, for instance, just recently released an update where you can take a task and then you can, just using the drop-down in the upper right-hand corner, automate that to be created every month or every week or something like that as a repeatable task, for instance. And so things like, let's do a broken link scan every month, can be automated fairly quickly, and it makes sure that the right people are in the room at the right time to take care of those things. Other things that could be automated potentially are things like handoffs and scheduling and things like that as well, to some extent. I would say that it's more about tooling when it comes to scheduling, like using a Calendly or booking feature of some kind. But still, anything that you feel like that you're doing repeatedly and there's some sort of template that you can feed into it, you could potentially automate. So just to keep that in mind as well. Now, why does this matter to clients? You may be wondering why. And, I would say, simply put, clients feel your internal chaos. And the more aligned that you're and efficient you are, the more trust, clarity, and value that they will get. So you can imagine that if you've done all of the front end work to, sign the client and kick off the workshop, and you start doing implementation, and, if you don't have things aligned really well between either the stakeholders and yourself or within the team, you may have lots of delays that will come up here and there, and that will definitely translate over to the client. They will see that because they're seeing a lot of corrections sort of happening over time that are more visible to them. So, I'd say that it's really important to keep an eye on, what that internal chaos is, and use tools to help reduce that. Now, this is actually the meat of my talk here today, to go through a 4Ls retrospective with you as an interactive element. So let's take a look. If you wouldn't mind going to this bit.ly or use the QR code on one of your devices, we're going to go through a liked, learned, lacked, and longed for exercise. And once you've pulled that up on your screen, we'll all be interacting here together. You shouldn't have to log in. You should see something like this. In fact, I probably need to reshare this screen here. Let me make this a little bit larger before I do that. Oop, not that large. Okay. So let's share screen again. There we go. So just thinking of this session, and I know I rattled off quite a bit to you already. Let's go through and each of us, let's pick maybe one from each section. And you'll see that the liked, learned, lacked, and longed for here at the top has some descriptions at the bottom. Liked are maybe things that we planned to or you thought that you would be getting that we did actually talk about, or I did talk about here with you today during the session. Things that you learned, maybe things that you didn't expect for me to talk about and you discovered along the way. As far as the lacked is concerned, there's often a hiccup between these two. The real difference between lacked is things that we didn't do very well is lacked, and then longed for are things that were missing or questions that were left unanswered. And I know that still probably seems a little vague, but I would say that after you go through this exercise a few times with the 4Ls, you'll kind of see differences between them. So let's go ahead and make sure, are you able to edit the cards? Anybody able to do that? Go ahead and enter, take some time, maybe about 10 minutes here, and let's enter some information into the cards. And we'll come back and talk about it as a group. Just a quick note, on the bottom side here, we're going to go over the action items here in a little bit later. So just focus at the top cards for liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. And if you're having a hard time thinking of things for my session here today that you would put in these cards, you might think a little bit more generally about your projects and maybe a recent project that you were on and something that you felt like that you liked, learned, lacked, or longed for in that recent project. And now we're not talking about performance here so much. We're talking about, what kind of communication things might have been needing to improve, or Maybe we would like to see, more information about a particular area. And that would be a lacked item. About Miro has this neat little tool. So we'll see if this works. Oh, I guess the volume isn't up on the TV. Yes, no, maybe. That's right. We have about a minute and 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts? All right, I think we're all feeling pretty good at this point, yeah? All righty. So let's go ahead and I'm going to drag this back over to my screen so I can read it easier. And one moment while I get everything resituated here with the recording. Okay. So thank you for participating in the retro. Today, we will, oh goodness, I wanted this one. So what we're going to go over here now is to read over a few of those cards and, open the floor for brief reactions about these things. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here on my side. On the liked side, we had an example email template we liked, and the interactivity of the Miro board we also liked. On the learn section, we have clients can feel when there's chaos. That's good to hear. And we also have a lacked section here. A couple items were entered. One was slide deck is not full screen, probably because we're using Windows. No, I'm on Linux. It worked before. I don't know why it didn't work all of a sudden. Documentation around decisions changing scope lacked that. Okay, thank you for that feedback. We also have longed for more examples of client management, okay? And guidance on how to deal with needy clients or unresponsive clients. Okay, so now that we've gotten through this piece, let me go ahead and get back over here. So I would say that the next step is that action planning. No activity that we do in the project management space especially is valuable without next steps. So let's think about that. Based on everything that we have just briefly, sort of discussed or shouted out here with the 4Ls retrospective, let's think about a couple of these things. What is something that you can commit to either personally, like if you were to have me personally do something, or an experiment that could be tried as the group for this group sort of session based on what we longed for or lacked. So let's go ahead and back on the Miro board, and I'll go ahead and set another timer here. If you can go to the bottom portion here and just write out specific action items that you think might be good for me to incorporate or have participants participate in the next iteration of this session. I'll go ahead and set a timer as well again. I'll just set it for 5 minutes this time. And I want to say that there's actually an option for a tune. Let's see if it'll do it this time. I'll try another one. Oh, maybe it'll just chime at the end. So we have 5 minutes. Go ahead. And just a quick note, one sort of action item per card, if you wouldn't mind. And we can create more cards if we need to. So. Minute 30. Okay, 30 seconds left, 25, I mean. All right. Well, thank you everyone for putting in some action items here today. We have provided a fictitious client with common issues, or clients with common issues, allow to share our approach for critique. So who had that action item? Yeah, what were you thinking there?
I was thinking maybe as a challenge, allow us to maybe share common experiences that we've had with clients who were either, like I said, needy or responsive. The unresponsive ones become needy when you let that go too long.
As an example would be like an unresponsive client. Okay.
You do in this situation, and
So-
I'm sure we've all experienced some way.
Sure.
Some of us maybe had a successful solution, and some of us needed a little guidance. So since it's such a small group, you kind of share.
Sure. We'll even add that here. Share a story and experiences around unresponsive client. That's good. Okay. And the next one was create an EDC concept for managing client expectations. Whose was that one again?
So a little bit.
That was yours as well?
I've been an engineering manager
Okay.
for 7 years now.
What is
so
EDC,
I
first of all? Because I feel like that's a lot, could be everyday carry. Okay, gotcha. Yes. Yes.
But like I love Miro and retro, so I live by my Miro board.
Awesome. So you're familiar with this process working with Miro and doing retros on Miro. Yeah.
This is how I communicate with my engineers. How I learn.
Communicate with your engineers with it and clients as well. I'd imagine you use Miro
The
for.
last 7 years I haven't had any clients. It's all been engineers were essentially.
Or stakeholders, I'm saying. You've worked with stakeholders on Miro boards as well? Yeah, it can be a really great tool for communication, right?
So that particular thing, everyday carry, it's like this concept on YouTube where it's like everybody shares, like, oh, I carry my phone, my wallet, my knife, compass, or whatever. But I'm sure that there's
so a list of specific tools or something like that would be good to include. Gotcha.
And I'm sure, like, when we get to the AI conversation, that's going to get real interesting because everybody has probably a tool that they could probably use. ChatGPT is one. I think what else? The one GitHub Copilot. There's a new one, new IDE. New IDE, section C.
Well, it's Claude.
Claude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially around AI.
Some of these things, or is it all?
Right. If I could spell today. There we go. I think that's right. All right. Thank you for that. That's great advice. Our action item. We also have show the action items from the last retro because we didn't do that this time. We didn't have a last one to do. So, but I would say that when we do it again, we want to have those action items showing up from the previous to see if we have improved on those or performed those action items, right?
For your next audience, maybe share.
That's awesome. I love it. We'll do it. And then share story. Oh, we already talked about that one. But I see one hidden behind here.
That's a little joke.
More cowbell. I kind of like that. I should bring a cowbell. Yeah.
He runs out of like ideas. Christopher Walken.
Right.
Oh, we need more cowbell.
More cowbell.
I used to play a
Yes.
joke on my manager. Never did that.
Yeah.
So it's a thing I do. It's stupid, but it's good.
No, it's great. It's great. Thank you. Okay, so let me move this off again here. I don't know if I can get my mouse to work. Oh. Alrighty. And hopefully I can navigate here. And let's stop sharing, reshare again. Okay. So before I get into the next slide, I will say that if I had maybe some more time, I'll be honest, I would go through like another round with you and actually answer all of those questions. Maybe quickly on the unresponsive. We could talk about that maybe here real quick. So unresponsive clients, maybe tell me your story about an unresponsive client.
So I had a client we're currently working together for 2 months. It's been us back and forth, a lot of lunches, a lot of a lot of beer,
Yeah.
a lot of
In-person meetings with client.
In person,
Yeah.
He'd call me any time of day, press whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just went dark. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's like really busy or
Gotcha.
what happened there, but like I want to reach out, but I don't want it to. I've reached out a few times and feel like.
Have you signed a contract with this client? Okay. And are there clauses in your contract to about pauses?
It was a pretty light contract.
Okay, gotcha.
Personal relationship.
Yeah. Even when you don't have a clause in a contract, which is usually a tactic to straight up front say in the contract, we expect you to be around for this period of time or this particular engagement. And if you don't, what happens, right? There may be some penalties involved, if that makes sense for some clients. It monetarily. So especially if you have like, a deposit, let's say that they have put down, right? And you did a lot of work and you're waiting for them to come back and do UAT. And they went dark at that point. You still have to recover your money that you spent on implementing, which you'll maybe get 50-50 and one on the front, one on the back. So a penalty clause in relation to a pause would involve like a certain percentage that you would recover if there's a pause for an extended period of time, and you would set that maybe to, 1 or 2 sprints worth, or maybe 25% of the time of the project, or something like that. So you give them some time, right? But you don't want to give them until the very end of when it was supposed to be launched, because that's the worst case scenario. You want to plan for your other contracts and your other projects that you'd already planned for, but you still want to recover for some of that money. And there's some collection activities that you could, do as well if necessary. Go into arbitration. That's real far. But I think honestly, having a clause in there in the first place and just making it really clear, like even in just in a project charter or in the workshop, kickoff workshop, is to make clear what those engagement expectations are. And then I also like to focus on next steps. So whenever I get finished with that last meeting, there's always something that both of us are responsible for doing within a period of time to return to. And if that doesn't happen, then there's an expectation set that there will be follow-ups that will happen, at that time. So in this particular case, it's a tough situation that I think you're in. Maybe because you haven't had, I don't know if you've had too many of that setting expectations conversation. Like, was there a time frame that you might have set previously?
Expectations were set, but not a specific time frame.
Okay. Yeah. So I usually with those sorts of situations will follow up like kind of in a where it makes sense sort of frequency. So if it feels like that it's something that you wanted to complete in 3 months, and here you are in month 1, and at the end of month 1, and they're going dark on you. You might like every other week, contact them and then see. And if they don't, then try other methods of communication. I would say also maybe if you try 3 times on one method of communication doesn't work, you might try somewhere else that they like hang out either online or at a local pub or whatever the case may be. In your case, if you're in person. You might have to kind of do some, tracking down sort of thing, or look to colleagues. That's another way too, is if you have a mutual colleague, network colleague, you might at some point lean on them, if it's a trusted one, of course, to say, hey, have you heard where this person is at? I've been looking for them. And, who knows, they might come around at that point and get some pressure from a mutual colleague. I've used that more than once, and I hate to have to use something like that. Doing like back in the day of what was it called? Credit collector not trace routing, because that's totally networking. Call tracing. I used to do call tracing back in the day, but it's basically the same thing. So you might have to do some extra work to get them engaged again. A little bit, yeah. And you don't have to divulge all the things. You just be like, hey, I'm looking for this person, whatever. And hopefully they'll come around. So
I'm hoping it's the landscape. So.
I know we're over, and I love this conversation. let's do it again or extend it out into the hallway. But I did want to mention here shortly other things that I'm involved in. A couple, 3 years ago, with all the tech layoffs that were going on, especially in the Drupal space, I was involved in 2 layoffs myself, and I formed this organization, really just a group called Digital Career Sandbox. I have a Slack, but really it's Monday, every Monday. If you're looking for a role, need some help, just want to talk through it, I do a job search stand-up where we just talk like any other stand-up. What did you do last week or since last we talked? What are you thinking about doing next? Where are your blockers? There's lots that has changed in the job search market. So if you know anybody or if you're looking for help in that way, please, hit me up at Digital Career Sandbox. I have an events calendar on the website, and you should drop in sometime. Maybe we'll see each other again. Also, I am the organizer for MidCamp, which is a Chicago-based Drupal camp. Our next one is in May, a couple months after DrupalCon Chicago. So I will highly encourage you to go to both, but I am specifically the organizer for MidCamp. Check us out if you're looking at getting involved with organizing. We're a friendly group and we like to break up things into very small tasks. So please do drop in on the MidCamp Slack. It's just mid.camp/Slack. And if you're looking for me, this is me, Tech Norah, everywhere. You can grab the QR code and come up and have any questions as well today. Thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate your participation today.